everyone, welcome to the Human Skills Lab, because human skills aren't soft, they're essential. I'm Heidi Peace, an educator, and I'm so excited to be here with you.
And I'm Kobe Campbell, a school counselor and licensed clinical social worker. We're teaming up to encourage and equip you to build the skills for a better life. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed or just looking for a little motivation, you're in the right place. Although we come from an education background, this podcast is really for anybody.
In every episode, we're going to share practical tips and personal stories and strategies you can actually use. Plus, we'll answer your questions, maybe even have some fun along the way.
So get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's figure this out together. We're so glad you're here.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Also, our views are our own and do not reflect the school district for which we work.
All right, today let's do our check-in, our accountability check-in. Last week we talked about having difficult conversations and how to do that and what happens when they go sideways. So this week, Heidi, you were saying that you didn't want to take it personally and understand that it's not about you. Did you have an opportunity to have any difficult conversations, or what
Literally
happened?
every day.
Oh. I'm so sorry.
No, it's great. No, because I think that a lot of things can turn into a difficult conversation, but instead, I didn't take it personally.
Oh,
I
okay.
have interactions where you kind of get like your hackles up a little bit, like you're like, I think this person is trying to argue with me or trying to belittle me or whatever. And instead I'm like, it's fine. It's probably not me. And I just moved on. Also, my teenager has been amazing. And I know that sounds weird. A teenager that's amazing.
Oh,
But
no, no,
but
no.
he's like, Mom, I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at the situation. I'm mad at like how things are. And I was like, oh, did I raise you? Oh, oh,
So,
oh.
friends, that is gold right there.
Yeah.
The fact
So
that he
he
can,
also is supporting too.
but the fact that he can recognize that,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah. And what about you? You were going to decenter. How's that going?
Yeah, so if I can just comment quickly
Mm-hmm.
on yours as
Oh,
well.
sure.
So, oh, I totally forgot what I was going to comment on now. Wait, this is a
You were
come as you
just
are podcast. We forget
you were so
things.
amazed.
I
You were
know.
so amazed that I was able to not take it personally, which I am too.
Oh, you said it's probably not about me. It's
Uh,
not about you.
right.
Like it's about their reaction to maybe their reaction to something that you did. That's not about you. That's about their own story, their own experiences, their own narrative, right? Now, you very well may have done something that, oh, in hindsight, or with them coming to you and saying, hey, I didn't really like this. Oh, okay, apology, change things, whatever. But it's not about you. It's about their experience of it and their narrative and their experiences before. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that can make it easier to not take it personally if
And
you
and
think,
I think it can downgrade the conversation from a difficult one to just a conversation.
yeah, absolutely.
Like it doesn't have to be difficult all the time.
No, instead of,
We can deflate the situation. We can use humor. We
mhm,
can kind of say, "Oh, well, we'll talk about that later," and then actually circle back to it later when you're calmer. Like there's ways
yeah.
to get around actually having that difficult conversation when people are not in for it.
Well, it's about that emotional overlay we've talked about in previous episodes too. If you take the emotional overlay off, it becomes much less difficult, and a lot of that is done through examining your thinking, examining your experiences, your triggers, and kind of working with how can I decrease how intense these triggers feel, right? And some of that is reframing your thinking about a
Yes.
situation from it's about me, they're attacking me, to they're having a response or, I mean, they're having a reaction to something that has gone on. It
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to do with me. It can be a trigger from some other thing, some other time. Could be major, could be minor. But we don't know, and if we don't know, we can't assume it's about us. And that takes a lot of the emotional overlay off, if that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, for sure. And then once that emotional overlay is not there, just everything can feel more at ease.
Yeah, it's easier to have that conversation.
So, how is your progress going with decentering?
So I don't know that I don't know. I do know how it's going. I don't know that I had difficult conversations or conversations that I needed to decenter. I will uh, relay one that I had that I definitely did not need to decenter, and it was a difficult conversation dealing with insurance
Oh,
and mail order pharmacies
oh,
and the lack of communication and cooperation between the two.
yeah, that can make your blood pressure go up too.
Yes, and
And you'll
so
need blood pressure meds.
I'll go back to the episode before last because that's what I needed to use then, which is regulation. But I think um, in talking about all of the things that we talked about with difficult conversations, I did rely heavily on my self-regulation. And in the past, these types of conversations and situations, like I have cried because it has
Mhm.
been so frustrating. Like I have made multiple calls to both entities, and they're both telling me they've done what they're supposed to do, but the other is telling me that they didn't. So who is correct and what do I do now?
Right.
So
Because you
I
still
think
need to get this done. Like, this
that
is
does not
important.
change the fact that my child
Yes.
still needs this prescription as soon as possible. In fact, we started this process when she didn't need it so urgently, and now she does. So I feel like that regulation part for me for difficult conversations was a big one, and I feel fairly successful. That does not mean I was not a little bit mama bear. That does not mean that I did not say things plainly, kindly, but firmly. I
Hmm.
know this is not your fault, but I would like you to step out of the policy box, the procedure box, and do something to help us. Like
Nice.
being assertive. I understand the constraints, but we need something more than what you're able to give us right now, owing to the fact that these two entities somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do because we don't have the prescription. Um, so that was my difficult conversation experience. And so I'd say I was fairly successful at using the regulation part. Um, and maybe at the decentering as well. I don't think I needed to listen to anybody else in that particular situation. I needed to advocate for what we needed. But I was able to, instead of go full mama bear with no control, step back and say, I understand your situation. And also,
Hmm.
this is what
Yeah.
we need, and advocate for our, what we needed. So I'd say it was successful, even though it wasn't exactly what it was that I had planned to work on. And I can't think of any other difficult conversations where I really needed to decenter this week, but that is something that I, excuse me, do know going into difficult conversations in the future, I will be prioritizing for myself.
Yeah. And you can keep that in your back pocket for when you're ready because they will come. Don't worry.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about wellness
Hmm.
and specifically the 8 dimensions of wellness. And then we're going to look over some exercises that we can do to assess how we're doing with our balance.
Yeah. I think that's been, I mean, sort of the theme of our, since the beginning, and it's began as sort of clarification of values, but it's organically followed us through the rest of the episodes. And I think the 8 dimensions of wellness is really another clarification exercise on how you're doing living your values. We've linked some resources. The first one, the 8 dimensions of wellness, is from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association. Um, and that tends to be sort of the gold standard. There are exercises that have the wellness wheel, and you can actually draw a line where you think, you are on that wheel. The idea is taking into account the 8 dimensions of wellness and rating yourself from 1 to 10 on each of these dimensions. But first, let's talk about what the dimensions are. So the first dimension is emotional. So coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships. That also goes a little bit into the social. Um, But let's see, what else do I want to say about the emotional? Being aware of and accepting one's own feelings and the feelings of others. So that's like self-awareness, but also other awareness. Um, Experiencing self-esteem and appreciating life, paying attention to, expressing, and managing one's emotions appropriately, and then managing stress and dealing with difficult decisions effectively. So that would be emotional. Environmental, good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating environments, um, maintaining a home, work, study space in a way that supports success and thriving. So making sure you have a safe, nurturing, comfortable place to live. But then it can also be the recognition of interdependence between self, society, our environment, and being a good steward. Then we have financial satisfaction with current and future financial situations. That can look like obtaining, managing, and maintaining finances, having
Hmm.
enough money to live a safe, effective life, paying bills, allocating finances appropriately, healthy, and having a healthy relationship with money. Intellectual, recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills, being engaged in creative and stimulating activities, and then adapting to changes, new information, and differing perceptions and approaches. Then we have occupational, satisfaction and enrichment from your work. Let's see. Um, Making sure or preparing for and entering work that is consistent with personal interest and values, satisfaction from work, and expanding, involving, and evolving your skills. And then physical, this is one that's been on my mind a lot lately.
Yes.
Um, Healthy, safe practices in like physical activity, healthy foods, and sleep. Basically, all those things that allow you to be able to have the energy to do all the rest of the things. Then there's social connection and belonging, well-developed support system, those activities outside of work and family life, although it can also include family. And then existential or spiritual, expanding a sense of purpose and meaning in life. That can mean faith for some people. It can mean an ethical approach to life. It can mean understanding your own personal and social identity and living your values. Again, that can be religious if you are a religious person. It can be spiritual if you're more of a metaphysical but not religious person. And it can also just look like trusting that things will work out for you. I mean, taking appropriate action, but also trusting that things will work out for you, if that makes sense. And that was a lot of words. But that's sort of the gist of all of the 8 areas.
Yeah, I'm just gonna highlight them: emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, and spiritual. So already you can be thinking in your head, well, like immediately I'm like, oh, I know which one's low for me.
Yeah, but having these definitions is important, but
Yes.
also you're going to have your own sort of add-ons to that, so whatever that definition from the organization is, your definition of financial health might, or financial wellness might be a little bit different than what they sort of said. So you can have your own interpretations of that as well.
And I think I also want to highlight the interdependence because, like you said, if you're not sleeping well, you're not eating healthy foods, like now you're putting a lot of strain on your occupational
Mhm. Or
um,
you're emotional, like it can be
or
much
your
more difficult
emotional, and
to
then that can
manage your
trickle to
stress.
your financial. It's
Yeah,
just they're so connected
yeah,
that is why we really need to look at all of them and really make some intentional choices. Run them back through our values and decide, what this has an impact on my life, not
yeah,
only in this one area, but as a part of my entire life.
yeah. So that interdependence is really important. However, true to form with what we've been talking about for the other episodes, when you rate yourself 1 to 10 on all of these areas, the areas that are lowest, you might want to start with those, but you might not. You might want to start with something that's going to make a big impact, and it might not be in the lowest area. But it does not have to be all at once. It should not be all at once, because when we're talking about wheels, like what happens when your wheel is out of balance? For many years, I really avoided this exercise because I knew that I was going to have a flat tire, that I was just going to be
Right.
limping along. So what happens when one side or two sides or, a couple of different areas are so much lower than the others? I don't think taking a lot on at once is the way to do it. Just like with everything else, it can be very overwhelming. You need to chunk it down to the tiniest next thing. That's our thing here, is the tiniest next thing that you can do to move the needle in your situation. So when you do have a flat tire, taking stock of what you can do about that, what feels doable, what you're interested in doing, because that's going to give you motivation to do it, and what you think is going to make the biggest or a significant difference for you. So there is an exercise, and we'll link this to for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, that it's a 22-page document, but I think the one of the things that is really, oh no, sorry. Let me back up and say that the first exercise was from the UCLA GRIT coaching program from 2019, but they took resources from SAMHSA. So one of the things that is good to do, which I'll just show you the blank version, the top category is what are you excited about or grateful for right now? So what's giving you energy? And then the next category is what's making you nervous or feel stressed, what's draining your energy. And then down at the bottom box, it's talking about what's the impact of your plus and minus situations. What impact is that having? So when you take a look at the excited about and grateful for, and then what's draining you, and the interdependence, it gives you a clearer vision of what you can do to move things forward. Like, what do I need to do? How are these things all being impacted? And then picking the thing that might change that impact, change the trajectory of that situation, if that makes sense. Um, so that will be linked as well as the SAMHSA document that gives some strategies for what to do in those different areas of your flat tire areas, I guess I'll call them. So pick a dimension that's most important to you or would have the most impact for you and go as small as possible. Don't do all of them all of the time, because that's going to be too overwhelming. You'll quit. I think, that's a pretty well-established fact in any of the habit literature. You don't want to take on too much at a time, um, or it's not going to work.
And just for example, I'm going to model mine out loud.
Yeah.
So, what energizes me is actually exercising.
Mm,
It seems kind of counterintuitive because you are expressing all of this work. You're
mhm.
lifting heavy things, you're moving. And then, honestly, afterwards, I feel exhausted. But then I also am very happy,
Yeah.
relaxed, and then I usually sleep better. So that really kind of goes along. And then the next day, I feel much more energy.
Yeah.
So, what's energizing for me right now is exercise, and what is draining for me is um, maybe like figuring out my financial future.
Mm,
So, if I'm figuring out my financial future, I think I really need to take some of your advice and be like, you know what? Um, I'm gonna increase my spiritual faith that it's gonna be okay.
yeah.
Um, And so I think right there, I can diagnose one, but then use another category to help prop up the other one, or to really understand that, like, a future worry may not even be a thing.
So,
It's just your brain's guess, right?
yeah.
It's not actually happening right now, and you don't know what can happen in between.
No, and it's not that you shouldn't take prudent action. So for
Right.
financial, stress or worry, making a plan for how to save money, how to invest money, how to um, just meet your obligations if that's the situation that
Yeah,
you're in.
and
It's
learn
probably a
maybe,
different situation.
there's some learning that needs to get done too. Like, what is a good investment? How do you
Hmm.
do that? Then there's some risk involved there too. So we're talking about this in a non-detailed way, on purpose,
Because
but
everybody's situation is different.
yes, absolutely.
But
And also, we none of us have a crystal ball, so
or a
none of us
magic wand.
really know.
Yeah. No, and I think all of our situations are different, but there is a universal that is when you are worried about something, it often helps to create a plan. And faith doesn't mean you don't take prudent action. It
Right.
just means you take the best action, the action that you feel is best given the knowledge that you have. You grab more knowledge where you can, and you take tiny steps forward to improve your situation, whatever those steps are, whatever your situation is. But the bottom line is if you've got something that's draining your energy, number one, that physical exercise can help you manage that stress. So that interdependence shows up there in terms of your wellness wheel. But also, you know, it can help you think more clearly about that situation. You are more energized, more well and healthy, so that you're not like if you weren't doing that and you were just focusing on this financial future, I guess, stress, then that might suck you in a little bit farther than you needed to go
Hmm.
because you're not balancing it out with this exercise that energizes you and gives you all those endorphins, right? That give you that more positive feeling and outlook.
And I mean, part of it is also the emotional part too. It is, I can choose to see the cup as half full or half empty, right? I can choose to say, you know what happens if it's not the worst case scenario? What
Hmm.
happens if it's the best case scenario? What happens if it's even better than I could imagine?
Hmm.
So there's some amount of stepping out of trying to make the future certain, because it's
Oh
not.
no,
The
it's
future the
not.
future literally is not certain. And since I think a lot of people worry so that they can give it some concreteness.
It feels like control, but worry
It
is not.
feels like control, but really that's not it. And
It just
just
takes away
taking
from
a
your joy
few
now.
good steps in the right direction and being mindful right now can help that future. But we don't know what the future is. So
And
I think just like even just understanding that emotional part of like, I have a choice. Humans are pretty negative. We survived because of that ability to have the negativity bias. However, is that helpful here?
yeah, and anytime you're dealing with worry and the need for certainty and the worst case scenario, right? Um, One of the reframes that you can do for your brain and your mental health is even if the worst case scenario happens, I will be able to handle it. We
Hmm.
don't want the worst case scenario to happen, so our brains go into overdrive to try to prevent it from happening, and there are prudent actions we can take to prevent some things from happening. But when we move into over control, over worry, that
Right.
takes away from our current joy and puts our wellness wheel out of balance. When we can reframe and say, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but whatever happens, I will be able to handle it. I have the personal strength to handle it. Like, I've got the resources. If our wheels are in balance, we've got the support system that we need. Um, and then part of it is just trust that the resources will show up at the right time. And that will
Mm.
often feel like magical thinking, but, right? But
But
it
if
is,
you look back at your life, think of all the things that have shown up at the right
yeah,
time. I mean, just think of all the things, and then maybe it doesn't need to be as magical because you if you look back, you can actually have a gratitude practice around all the things that came in to help
yeah.
us to get where we are today.
Yeah, the people who are willing to help if you ask, or the help that shows up without asking. I
Hmm.
think there are a lot of different ways that things can work out, and sometimes we need to ask for help, and sometimes people just sense and see that we're struggling and help us out. Um, but I think being intentional and attentive to balancing your wheel And knowing where your resources are and taking prudent action can be really helpful to decrease the worry. But then also, there's a part of it that just needs to be um, reframing those thoughts that are causing us more stress and putting us more out of balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have any things you want to share about your wheel? Any insights or?
So, in terms of my wheel, when I looked at it, I am more in balance than I have ever been. Like I told you, I have avoided this practice because in the past, because I knew the areas that were going to be low and I knew the areas that were going to be high. And there were reasons for that. I was sacrificing one area for another. The two areas that are the lowest for me are physical and social, but I will tell you, when I did this exercise, I was actually so happy with what I figured out where I was because they were so much higher than they had been in the past, and that was intentional for me. Starting about beginning of summer, we were talking about this a little bit before we got on air. I just got, I'm going to say sick of myself, but that's not actually it. I mean, part of it, there's a sick of myself. Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. There were
Mm.
certain ways that I was doing things that had me hanging on to extra weight and not having enough social time with people and not sleeping enough, not eating healthy. And starting in June, I something just clicked and I was sick of it. And sometimes that's what will happen. I don't know what other people's motivations are. Sometimes that's the motivation is you just like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And so making some intentional changes, and I'm grateful for summer because it gives me as a school counselor, it gives me the time and space, especially since my little is not little anymore. Having
Mm.
a young adult versus a little makes a huge difference in your ability to care for yourself, truly.
That is so true.
If you are in that phase with littles, please give yourself grace and take, advocate for, negotiate for whatever time you can
Mhm.
get to care for yourself, but realize we know. We
Yeah.
we have been through it too. Life with littles is hard.
Yes.
It's joyous and wonderful and hard. But
And you
starting
are probably just going to be limping along and surviving.
that wheel
So
could
don't
continue to be out of
don't
balance.
add on to that any like negative like shame or
No.
it's just the season. It's just accept the fact that you don't have as much time. You are being woken up all hours of the night. You can't get your best sleep. And then when you can't get your best sleep, all of these other things fall apart. So
But
just
reduce your
understand that
expectations.
that is the journey.
Yeah. But we've talked about what to do when you can't, it's hard to live your values. Reduce, part of it is reducing your expectations of yourself. Part of it might be asking for help. And I've been in that situation where you're like, well, who can I ask? We're all in my family maxed out. Like at one point I was a stay-at-home mom. So my husband's working um, you know, two jobs basically, teaching and, lifeguarding to make things happen for us. And so who can I can't really ask him for help. So
No.
because he's maxed out too. So grace and reducing expectations and finding that teeny tiniest thing that you can do to take care of yourself, I think is important because once you find that teeny tiny thing, maybe you'll have an opportunity soon to build it bigger, you know. So I think about my wellness wheel, that's kind of where I'm at is the physical and social I made time to get out and go for walks and, do different things, go surfing with some friends, like do some things that really do build that social for me and do, at the same time build the physical, taking intentional care of what I put in my body, how much I move my body, trying to get more sleep. That's always a struggle for me, but um, so yeah, feeling more balanced than in a very, very, very long time. But still, for those social and physical during the work year, that's the first to decrease. Those two are the first to decrease. So intentional strategies for continuing to maintain or build onto that. So do you want to take a look at, I thought maybe we could take a look at what strategies for whatever areas we thought were lowest or would like to work on, some
Mm-hmm.
strategies for those particular areas. And again, we're going to link the resource so that you can dig into all of the strategies that they talk about and pick some for yourself. Um, but for now, maybe we could model just by taking a look at our lowest areas and coming up with a couple of strategies to move the needle.
Yeah. So for me, my strategy is going to be understanding that humans have negative bias and that the if you turn on the news, it is gloom and doom and the world is ending.
That's why I
And
don't watch the news.
right. And so I think there can be a perception
Hmm.
that everything is negative
Hmm.
because that is what gets people to pay attention and
That's
watch.
headlines, right?
That's headlines. And so taking a step back and just identifying that is there, that is the purpose of it is to get people to watch it. I think understanding that my brain does the same thing. So my
Hmm.
brain is searching for those negative things and trying to seek them out so that I can be safe in the future. Um, and just understanding that that is normal and that's my brain's way of keeping me safe. And I can also tell that part of my brain, chill out, things are good.
Yeah.
um, and I'm going to take here are my three steps and I'm gonna have a so my tiniest next step for myself because this strategy is directly coming out of my own situation, my own life. My tiniest next step is going to be writing down my three intentional steps that I'm going to do for my future. I'm going to
Hmm.
write down those three things, and I'm going to tell my brain, hey, you've written it down. You're going to do something about it, so get it off your brain.
Yeah.
And I think that is a strategy that has worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try that one.
Yeah. That sounds great. I think anytime you're dealing with worry, whether it's large, intense worry or small, like niggling in the back of your head, that's a great thing to do is write down specific things that you're going to do to take charge of that. Can't control everything. And there's actually a lot we can't control, but doing what you can control
Mm-hmm.
can sort of calm that down. And then intentionally saying that you're going to shift into a different thought, a different mindset. And I want to acknowledge how difficult that can be because it's easy to say, oh, yeah, change your thought, reach for a better thought. That's so easy to say. But when you have been stuck in a negative loop, you know that it's not that easy to do. However, with practice, I mean, that's how you retrain your brain. We are wired as humans to be negative. And while that has kept us safe in the past, we really need to acknowledge those times when it's not keeping us safe, when it's making us suffer, and come back to how much do I want to suffer? Personally,
Yeah.
I don't want to suffer a whole lot.
Right.
So you don't want to stick your head in the sand and
No.
deny and ignore everything because there are specific things we need to, take account of. But when you are watching the news, particularly in the moment we're in right now, it can be very overwhelming
Mm-hmm.
because there is so much going on so fast. And again, there are those headlines, those predictions, it's doom and gloom. And so, how do you navigate that with a brain that's wired for negativity and still stay okay and able to function and do the things that you want to do? And oh, by the way, maybe enjoy your life because
Right.
really, that's where your wheel is going to get out of balance, is if you're focused on all those things that could
Mm-hmm.
go wrong. Well, then the rest, there's a lot of areas that are going to suffer for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I can help me to choose a different mindset is really just helping others.
Hmm.
Um, I have a lot of purpose in my job helping others. I cannot go 5 seconds into my day without helping somebody do something, navigate an emotional difficulty, or helping somebody find something, or teaching them something new. I cannot go 5 seconds without helping somebody. And I think if I put my energy into my purpose,
Hmm.
then there's less room in there for focusing, and it feels better. It feels better to help other people. So, like,
And that's going to
really, Yeah, really just changing my trajectory.
Yeah. And that's going to vary from person to person.
Right.
Because somebody in your exact situation with sort of different experiences and um, might feel like they need to pull more energy back to taking care of themselves,
Hmm.
and that would feel better. So just acknowledging that it's going to be variable, um,
Different for everybody,
different
and
for everybody.
you feel differently depending on what you're doing and what your purpose is.
And
And
it'll vary from
also,
day to day and week to week. You know, some days you're going to feel like, yeah, living my purpose and helping is really going to help me. And today, maybe I need to reduce my expectations and pull back a little bit. You know, ask somebody to come cover my class so I can actually use the restroom when I need to instead of waiting till recess, right?
right,
Like, you know, those teacher things. Um,
right. And also knowing like the season that you're in.
yeah.
You know, when you know you have not slept because your
Mhm.
toddler was awake 3 times, um, that, that's the day you write everything down because your brain is not going to remember it.
Yeah.
That's the day that you use the strategies that you have to get through the day.
Yeah.
But I think connecting to my purpose can strengthen my wheel. You
Yeah.
know, it can strengthen everything with the connection between the different spokes of the wheel. I think that um, whether that's taking a nap when I get home,
I
or
did that last
um,
night.
or really just leaning in to help others, because helping others really does make me feel good. And I think that yes, we are all good humans, but we do need to do those good actions to support that. Like, we can't just be like, "Oh, I'm great." I'm like, "Well, okay, well, let's do some great things for others." Because that is really the way that we are altruistic, and that can really support, at least to me, that supports my spirituality.
Yeah. Um, I think it can also impact other areas of the wheel in terms of gratitude. And when you're worried about your own situation, stepping outside of yourself to help somebody else who might not be in as good a situation, reflecting back on yours, oh, yeah,
Hmm.
there are some things I don't need to worry about, and I can be grateful for that. And that can decrease the amount of worry. It's not magic. It takes practice too. That's why they call it a gratitude practice. But intentionally shifting your mindset from constant worry about your own situation to helping somebody else and looking at, oh, wow, there are some pretty robust structures in my life I have in place that other people don't that I can rely on, and I can be grateful for that. And it
Right.
can help decrease that future worry as well. In terms of, is there anything else that you wanted to say about your wheel and the tiniest action for next week? I
I
don't want to
think
step on
I
you.
think just one point I want to make is that I want to go back to when you said there are times when you didn't even want to address this.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage people to address it in the smallest way you can.
See, resistance. I was gonna, when you were talking about physical
Smallest way.
exercise, it came into my brain to talk about resistance because I cannot tell you how many times I have gone, like, I've known I should exercise and I'm so tired and the
Right.
resistance is real.
Right.
So the way we overcome resistance is that tiniest step. So even if you just look at one area, the definition for one area, and rate yourself in one area, set a timer for 2 minutes and do the exercise for 2 minutes. Maybe you do more when the timer goes off. Maybe you're done for the day. But just carving out the tiniest bit of time to address wellness, that sort of wellness wheel, um, can build momentum. Just the tiniest actions can build momentum.
And one of the things that you had said to me about like your physical goals were like move more, eat less.
Hmm.
And I'm like, everybody can do that.
Yeah. Oh,
There,
but
it is this. It is now they can't maybe do it right away, right? But they can go get some new shoes so
mhm.
that they can go take a walk comfortably. Maybe
Or
their feet are a problem,
yeah,
or you can instead of getting buying the giant bag that you're going to eat for snack, you're going to put it into a smaller portion
Yeah.
and bring it to snack.
Or even knowing what portion sizes are. So one thing that
Yeah,
changed for me
that's
with my
even a
kids,
smaller step, right?
yeah. So one thing that changed things for me was using an app to actually calculate my calories. Now, I have mixed feelings about calculating calories. I have mixed feelings about body image and weight and all of that stuff. Um, I think healthy bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and what feels good for one person isn't going to feel good for another. And this is separate from eating disorders and mental health issues around body image. That's a whole separate conversation. But reading labels and seeing what a portion size should be versus let me heap some on my plate and eat until I'm not hungry anymore and actually until I'm full. Like there were emotional reasons around eating for me that didn't have anything to do with fuel.
Right.
Like food as fuel to get through my day, to give me energy, to do all those things. And that's what I got sick of. And so actually using an app to go, okay, this is a reasonable portion size, and this is the amount of calories to eat in a day to fuel my energy. Again, I know there's a lot of information out there, and you use whatever information feels good for you. There have been times when I've eaten paleo, not counted calories at all, maintained a healthy weight. So what's going to work for you at one time might be different than another. And as long as you're eating whole, healthy foods, avoiding processed foods, do what works for you. But for me, it was at the point of just feeling like um, something had to give.
Mm.
And so when I took charge of my movement and healthy portion sizes, things started to change. And my wheel became more in balance. And, you know, reaching out to friends to surf and to walk and to, be social shifted that balance even more. So I think the tiniest thing that I will do is the same as the tiniest thing 2 weeks ago is continue to exercise, continue to move my body in intentional ways, whether that's parking farther away and walking more steps, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, tracking to make sure I get over 10,000 steps, or actually doing yoga, surfing, or walking, um, doing things to move my body to be healthy.
And I think how this relates is that you felt some momentum. Once your wheel kind of came to more of the circular shape,
Hmm.
now it can roll.
Yeah.
Now you have some momentum behind you. And when you have that momentum, you can start to feel progress.
Yeah.
And progress is highly motivating. In
It
fact,
really is.
it is the best feeling when you are learning something new is you are making a little bit of progress. It just really encourages you to keep going.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you can do to make just one area a little bit better will affect the whole wheel eventually. So
Yeah.
just keep going. So
I'm
what is your tiniest next step, Kobe?
I'm going to intentionally keep track intentionally of movement for me. Um, and I think along with that, I might this week invite a friend to surf with me before work. Whether or not they can or show up is immaterial. The
Right.
reaching out, I think, is the
Yeah.
step. And then the actually going myself. I did that twice this week, whether or not it was good. If I had looked at it beforehand, I would not have gone out. It would have been like, but I actually had fun. And that when I do that before work, I arrive better, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I arrive in a better mood, a better space I'm not like rushing off to work early to, you know, overthink what I'm doing for the day. I'm strolling in with my surfboard on my head, more relaxed. Um, and I'll explain that surfboard on my head because I don't want to leave it on my car. I stash it in my office or underneath the stairway so that, the heat doesn't melt the wax and whatever. So, and I feel
Well,
like that needs
it sounds
explanation
like
too. That
it
sounds really
sounds
weird,
like
doesn't
just having these intentional conversations have sparked us
it? Yeah.
to do the things we can. What
Hmm.
can we control? let's do something. And then, like you said, you don't have control over whether or not that friend shows up, but you
Mhm.
do have control over the invitation.
Yeah.
So, and I want to encourage everybody that's listening, take that one step that you can control that is not dependent on somebody else, and then
Yeah.
make that step really small.
And if we have time, I'd like to just go through and maybe give a possible strategy, a tiny strategy for each category. So, intellectual, you might, even if you don't feel like you can, sign up for a course.
Hmm.
Um, Read 10 pages of a book. Like, find something that you think you want to learn about and read a tiny bit every day before bed as a part of your bedtime routine, which then moves into the physical. Maybe read that book instead of having screen time where the blue light might be activating your brain and not allowing you to get to sleep as well. 5 minutes of movement for physical as well. I mean, even if it's just a walk around the block, doing something to lace up your shoes and move, parking farther away, doing something intentional, and then giving yourself a pat on the back for it, because that creates motivation as well.
And I want to tackle the social one because I love that invitation.
Go
You
for it.
don't have control over who's going to show up, but you can invite three
Hmm.
people a day. You can
Yep.
reach out in a text or a phone call or even, just a smile.
Yeah.
You can be the one to reach out.
Yeah. Or even one a week. Like, it doesn't have to be three a day. Like,
Mhm.
once a week, text somebody that you haven't caught up with for a while, or invite somebody to coffee on a weekend. Or, again, we know with littles that's hard to do, especially youth sports. Oh my gosh, if you've got kids in youth sports, forget it. Maybe those are your friends, right? The
And
parents.
those are the ones you smile at.
Oh my God. Whew, it's brutal. Um, Existential or spiritual? Maybe it's a spiritual practice like meditation or a gratitude practice. Maybe it's going to church. Maybe it's just reflecting on your life and identifying those things that have worked out for you, and like building a bridge between where you are now and where you've been in the past. Emotional, so any coping strategy or skill that you can practice, a breathing practice, breathing in 4-7-8 breathing is my favorite. Breathing in for 4, holding for 7, letting out for 8. And you don't have to do that in stressful situations. You can practice it when you're calm too, because when you practice it when you're calm, you're more likely to reach for it when you are stressed out. So any emotional regulation practice that you want to do.
I want to do
Um,
the environmental one.
what you want to
Um,
do the environmental?
yeah.
Okay.
So for me, something easy to do is just remove some clutter from a room.
Yes.
Just take it away.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be donating it. It might be just putting trash in the trash. That might be like intentionally when you walk in the room, like find three things
Mm-hmm.
to take out of the room.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your entire environment is better. And if
I
you
have
do
to tell
that,
you.
if you do that every day or every week, over time, you're going to have a better place. If you want to actually devote a big chunk of time and be like, okay, in 2 weeks we're going to call the junk hauler or we're going to call the donation truck. Um, you can have a real big environmental impact whether you rent,
Yeah.
whether you own your own home. You're going to have less clutter, which is going to free your mind.
It's funny because since we've started showing our home, we've sort of reduced the amount of things that are out on display. Just again, to when somebody walks in, to be able to see themselves in the space versus us in the space. And I have to tell you, although I loved all of those things, not having them around is much calmer.
Yes.
And I kind of like my house better without all the stuff.
And honestly, when things are not put away and they seem random, my brain goes through this math process and it's like, oh, I anticipate that this will take me 25 minutes to clean up. I'm tired now.
Yeah. I'm tired just looking at my
I'm
house.
just tired just looking at how much time this is going to take. So if
Oh,
you
me
can
too.
remove some of those things, then
Yeah.
you'll remove the barriers to enjoying your time.
Yes. Okay. I have to also plug, and I don't know. Maybe I'll put the link in the show notes, but I was looking for adult coloring pages, just something mindful slash mindless to do, and I came across this free printable coloring book of Hygge. I think that's how it's spelled. The sort of, is it Danish, Swedish? I'll put it in the notes, but it's about creating cozy, nurturing spaces. Like it's a
Hmm.
whole sort of
Oh, I have heard of that. Yes. Okay.
strategy, right, for creating calming, cozy, nurturing spaces. And I think I associate it more with winter, but I think it's any time of year. And so that got me really focused on, sort of, creating these intentional spaces for yourself that feel calming. Like before I go to work these days, I am spending that extra couple of minutes to make sure the bed is made, things are put away. Because when I come home, and if you have littles or middles, um, getting them involved in that as well. There was a parenting expert a long, long time ago that used the phrase, if they can walk, they can work. And it's not in a negative way, but like they can contribute to the family, you know? They can do small things to contribute to the family. Now, there's a balance there because nagging your kids to do things and, it does not contribute to that calming space, but, just allowing them to participate in that as well. What do we have left? We have financial, so creating a plan either
Mhm.
you know, um, to shift your situation in some way. Maybe putting some money or changing your savings account from a regular savings account to a high yield savings, where you can earn a percentage, very small percentage, but still a percentage. Or if you do have a teeny bit extra to invest, finding somebody to help you learn about investing, or even if it's just creating a budget for yourself, like intentionally looking. We did that recently, intentionally looking at what we're spending and where. And oh, there's this subscription I'm not even using. Why am I still paying for it? Or do I need to go to Starbucks every day? Like, you know, that kind of thing. Um, Career. Is that, I think that might,
Occupational, yeah.
yeah, occupational. I think that's our last one. Um,
That's where we spend a bunch of our time. And I
yeah.
think trying to do more of the things that are valuable and move your work
Mm,
forward.
yeah.
I think that is how one thing you can do to prioritize the things that move the needle.
Yeah, and I think depending on, I mean, because there are a lot of different job situations, you might be stuck in a job you hate, and so it might be then identifying parts that you like or identifying something you can do on the outside to move you to the next place that is better or more aligned with your values and your career aspirations. But I think if you're in helping professions like we are, connecting with those things that move the needle versus, because we've talked before about those things that are fun to do and they, Pinterest worthy and all of that, but they don't really move the needle for students. That can be really enticing and attractive to do because it looks good and it's fun. But when you do the things that actually move the needle, the satisfaction that comes from that is worth the effort, in my opinion. Like when you actually see a student or somebody that you're working with shift and change, even if it's small and slow, that creates that satisfaction and bumps you up on that wheel. It creates that more balanced sort of feeling. Um, and we've talked a lot about how to make that happen in terms of boundaries, things that, you can potentially get off of your plate or reducing your expectations of those things that are on your plate so you can do the needle moving stuff in previous episodes. But that can be really important in, creating that, and I don't want to say higher number because this is not a competition. This is not a, like, oh, I got to do whatever to get the number. It's the satisfaction. The number represents the satisfaction, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we just want to, do you have any last words before we close, Kobe?
Just an encouragement to do something, no matter how small. If you're listening each week, um, and you feel able to do the tiniest next step. If you're still working on last week's, who cares? That's fine too. But if you feel like this moved you to do something about it, but you're not sure where to start, just figure out the tiniest next step.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you're not alone. And we are all going through this. We all have bumps in our wheels. and
Some
and
larger than others.
we've had a bumpier ride at different times in our lives.
Yeah.
But we are all figuring it out, and let's do it together, one step at a time.
Yeah. And I'm just going to encourage you to give yourself grace. You don't need to do things perfectly to make progress. Small changes add up. So find the tiniest thing that you can do this week to move the needle forward to have a more balanced wellness wheel.
And just keep showing up, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.